Hello again. Wasn't planning on releasing a video here originally, but hey, I was inspired, and for the first time in my life as an artist, I'm on time to hop on the bandwagon on something like this time, the Dune hype, while it's still in the theaters. Just as a note, I started filming a bit further, sorry for that, but I moved the camera closer at the cost of bumping into the camera several times, so the latter half or so is better footage in my opinion. In my last video I was talking about maybe doing this kind of stuff in the future again, so here it is, I guess, an unplanned extra cinematography video for you guys. These paintings are just so nice to make, and I will absolutely make more of these in the future when the inspiration strikes again. So I was kind of excited to see the movie, but still, me being me, it took me more than a month to go finally see it, and it was way better than I expected. Since I usually don't get too hyped up about things, because I've been the victim of overhype a couple times and then it's just a huge letdown. I'd rather be positively surprised. Well, I have rarely sat down through a 3-hour film barely moving while watching. This one was so captivating. So I felt really inspired to do a painting from this film. And how I came to pick this shot here is I really loved Lady Jessica's design as the Reverend Mother in this movie. I went with this particular scene since the jewelry stuff, which I thought was very cool, was a bit trickier to paint in one go, and this was meant to be a single session a la prima painting. I don't maybe show it that much, but I'm really inspired by cinematography. Just the visual look in some movies and series is so amazing. It's part of the reason why I've watched some movies or series several times. Some of my favorites are Westworld Season 1, True Detective Season 1, and Altered Carbon Season 1, which I just realized I think I have an issue with seasons beyond number 1 in general, it seems. While the stories resonate with me, I don't usually rewatch anything unless it's been like a decade between, and in this case I've seen all those like 4 times already, which is rare, honestly. This is mostly because I love the feeling and aesthetics of these. I'm not really in for the story anymore when I'm rewatching something like that. I pretty much know the lines already. Now coming back to Dune, both part 1 and part 2 are just amazing in terms of this. The shots really convey the atmosphere of a desert planet. I love the general color theme of the films too, it just works too well. A Hans Zimmer soundtrack really helps with the overall mood as well, since I've been a Zimmer fanboy for like 15 years at this point. So Hans, if you're watching, can I please use your music in my YouTube videos? Let me know, thanks. Anyway, recently getting more involved with photography and film editing, my respect for cinema and all the niceties has gone up, even further up, and paintings like these are my way of showing that respect while having fun and learning stuff at the same time. And now on to a bit of technical stuff for the painters and painting curious folks out there. I painted this in a similar manner to my last video where I made cinematography studies. When I painted those it was the summer of 22, and I haven't actually painted like this since. But I don't know why, because this felt pretty nice to me. The painting surface is a small canvas panel, and before starting I had actually forgotten I had oil primed it, so it was a bit more slippery than I thought. But I managed to hold it together in the end. The problem with that can be that, especially when doing small details, instead of laying down paint, the hairs of the brush just kind of wipe the surface instead. And I experienced it in some places, but it wasn't too bad in the end. For my palette, I used Ivory Black, Raw Umber, Mars Yellow, Permanent Alizarin, and Titanium White. I wanted to keep it fairly limited since the movie has a fairly muted color palette and didn't kind of want to go crazy there. I loved particularly the blue eyes from the spice, so I wanted to have that cobalt blue in there. I don't think I used it anywhere else in this picture. So first I started by staining the canvas with a thinned out raw umber and white back a little bit so there's not too much solvent on there. And then started drawing on top. And in the video you can see that the canvas isn't really absorbing the stain, so it wipes back kind of easily even when using thicker paint to draw. This wouldn't be happening on like acrylic gesso surfaces or such. And I then went on to use somewhat thinned out paint to cover the big areas with general colors and reinforce the drawing, and after that stage I took time to refine the areas to a reasonable finish considering the nature of the project. So no fussing around here, just make it work and move on. And that's pretty much how I went about it. Now, to make this video unbearably long for anyone that is interested and hates my voice at the same time, hopefully a marginal group of people, I wanted to talk also about flow state. Flow state is something people experience occasionally. My loose definition for it would be a state of great productivity, loss of the sense of time, and generally being very focused on what you're working on. It's relevant here because this painting was mostly made in a flow state. It is pretty rare for me as I do struggle a lot when I paint since I'm constantly challenging myself. In general, not always. Speaking of challenge, flow state is generally thought to be a result of two factors. It is a nice middle ground between challenge and skill. Where these two are balanced, a flow state can be experienced and it can be a really great feeling. When something is too challenging in relation to your skill in the task, the result will likely be anxiety, frustration, or something along those lines. You can always work through it, which I've done in the past, but it's taking away from the pleasure of the experience of painting. On the other hand, if your skill is higher than the task you're performing, you're more likely to get bored by the task, or at the very least, you won't learn much doing it, if we're talking painting here. I guess the sweet spot for me right now would be something like this, where it's challenging as a portrait. It's a celebrity where I have to get the likeness fairly accurate, but it's fairly monochromatic, so I don't have to really be nuanced about the color. I pretty much just winged it here, so it wasn't something I had to really think about all the time, since I feel that's one of the hardest things about naturally lit portraits. The skin tones can be so complicated and it's really difficult to make it look real. So I guess it's good to know where I am currently. Now, this isn't just meant to be a random piece of information, but something useful for you. My main thought here is that if you do think about these things occasionally, you will be able to take them into account in your practice. As you get better at something, remember to not just ease into your newly acquired skills and repeat those. I mean, repetition is important, but also remember to challenge yourself and push yourself to new heights, and you might actually end up enjoying the process even more, if you find a nice balance between challenge and the place you're at. I'm saying this because it is common for artists in training to get stuck in a loop of repetition to get good enough to do something. I think a faster way to improve honestly is to up the challenge in smart, thought out increments. Now this is sounding like an advertisement, but academic schools usually do this pretty well, where you start off with something simple, add complexity in the medium, then you switch to a more difficult medium and make it more simple, etc. Like graphite to charcoal to monochrome oil painting and then color paint, to put it very concisely. Alright, enough on that. I'm really just saying all this smart stuff to prolong the video because it annoys me that I paint for hours and the time lapse gets way too fast when it is condensed into like 4 minutes because I was lazy with the voiceover. I hope someone gets something of benefit from these videos, be it entertainment or knowledge. That would be nice. So last thing, as I said, this one is an extra video. I think I'll post these extras if I get some done on Wednesdays, and my regular upload day will be on Sundays. And I now have stuff coming every Sunday at least until mid-May as of now. And I think I'll have a lot more videos coming since I have a bunch of projects that I'm planning or working on right now, and I basically film everything I paint. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. I try to reply to every comment or message I get since it's a great way of procrastinating on housework. See you in the next one.